Simply no story about Western civilization that is not bound up with Jesus and Christianity. And in a sense, we're always asking ourselves, who was Jesus? What were his teachings? What does his
Yeah,
fate
this might seem
do?
odd if anybody tunes in
Indeed,
at this
this is
point, but the
true whether we're
reason I'm
Christians or not, and
into
even whether
this
we
lecture
even
about who
want to
Jesus is
or not.
because I'm
And
doing a
so I want
world
to ask those questions
history or culture
now
lesson about
and
him.
give you what I take to be reasonable historical and scholarly reasons to answer them. And I want to do so by exploring the historical Jesus from what I'll call a methodology of critical maximalism. That is, I can only discuss the Jesus of history using the scholarly tools available to me. The Christ of faith is simply beyond the scope of those tools. However, I would suggest that the Christ of faith must ultimately and always answer to the Jesus of history, given the logical priority of the latter to the former. And as I've said before, allowing our faith to dictate our history, it betrays both. Further, I want to take the New Testament accounts and the Christian tradition as historically as seriously as I can, again, using the tools available to me. Thus, I want to remain historically critical, but employ as much of those narratives as possible, hence critical maximalism. But in detailing this take on the Jesus of history, I'll be echoing the scholarship that strikes me as most reasonable, along with contributing my own take when it makes sense, and I'll flag those when I do that. If you're interested in topics like this, then make sure to subscribe here to Esoterica and check out my other content, mostly in topics in Western esotericism. Also, if you want to support work like this of providing accessible, scholarly, and free content on topics like these here on YouTube, I'd hope you check out my Patreon or consider some of the cool merch that we have on the channel. That said, let's explore just those foundational questions of Western civilization. Who was Jesus? What were his teachings? And how did his fate ultimately transform the world? I'm Dr. Justin Sledge, and welcome to Esoterica, where we explore the arcane in history,
Sorry about that.
philosophy, and religion.
Anyone's listening, but sorry about that.
The life of Jesus is often presented as a kind of pocket universe, under little to no influence from the world around it or the history before it. But to understand the life of Jesus, to really appreciate his life and teachings, we have to place him in just that history. And to do so, I want to begin in the Galilee just before the time of his birth. Herod the Great, as impressive as he was, beastly, frankly, dies sometime around 4 BCE, and long simmering resentment explodes into that power vacuum. A certain Judah, son of Ezekias, takes the initiative and breaks into the garrison palace at Sepphoris. The tiny village of Nazareth is just within eyeshot. And alongside numerous other would-be bandit messiahs rampages through the region. Publius Quintilius Varus, then the governor of Syria, but who would eventually go on to lose 3 legions in the slaughter in the Teutoburg forest, would take as many legions into the region to put down just that uprising.
My job,
Still
my
want the
actual
legions, though,
literal
I
job,
promise.
is to translate
Sepphoris
all
is
this
destroyed,
very
fire burned,
pristine,
and the
high
Galilean
quality
countryside is
academic speak and
decorated
condense
with
it to language that a sixth grader
2,000
can
or so
understand.
crucified corpses
And that's
left
actually
to
harder
rot.
than it seems.
Those who would be messianic kings and their followers now strung up, naked, bloated, and picked at by birds. A girl of only 13 or 14 and the man that she's betrothed to hurry past a crucified corpse to avoid the smell and the horror of it all. They've established Tanaim, but they've yet to have Kedushin according to Jewish law. She's engaged to be married, but it's not just the dreadful reality around them that keeps them silent. She's missed her period, and their marriage is not fully legal, much less consummated. Tradition has it that Miriam, Mary, was raised in Sepphoris. Her hometown is now a ruin, her country is an open air tomb, and her pregnancy now threatens to doom her reputation forever. The wind shifts, the fetid odor of decomp slightly clears. Maybe Joseph and Mary remove the cloth soaked from spices from their face to begin to have what was no doubt a profoundly difficult conversation about what to do next. And about 40 kilometers to the north, the situation was much the same. At Gush Khalav, the Romans are rounding up entire families for exile into Asia Minor. One of those families, according to Jerome, would take their young child Saul into exile with them, eventually settling in the capital of Cilicia at Tarsus. The young child Saul would grow up in a far more cosmopolitan world than he would have had access to in the Galilee. Tarsus even sported their own academy, where Athenodorus, tutor to the Emperor Augustus, would eventually teach and fix a haunted house over there in Athens. It's very possible that the lives of both Mary and Paul, separated by about 15 years in age, would have been bookended by messiahs and by the colonial violence. The tiny village of Nazareth was no place to have a baby out of wedlock. It would have destroyed Mary, her family, and her child's reputation and social prospects forever. Suspicion that the child was a mamzer, a child born of forbidden sexual relationships, would have prevented them virtually any future marriage prospects. The father of Mary's child was unknown. Perhaps Joseph, apparently an older local craftsman, apparently agreed to marry her, maybe just to save her from the ruinous shame of it all.
What's doing over here?
Mary and her child would never fully outlive the suspicion. The identity of the father of her child is just lost to history. But one ventures to imagine a distinct and horrible possibility. The catastrophe of the uprisings in the regions no doubt made vulnerable populations like women and girls all the more precarious. Indeed, that the father of the child was a Roman soldier was a rumor already current by the 2nd century. Celsus claims that the father was just such a Roman soldier named Pantera, or Pandera, the panther, and subsequent Christian, pagan, and Jewish sources continue to forward this narrative as slander or to reject it as just that. Pantera was, however, a Roman name, and at least one Pantera from Sidon is known from his tombstone, which is now weirdly preserved in Germany. But we also know of another Jewish Pentheros, along with his son Joseph, from a burial just north of the old city in Jerusalem. Whoever the father was, he was clearly no longer in the picture later in the pregnancy, and Joseph and Mary seem to have stuck it out, regardless of the potential social stigma. That Mary and Joseph would travel south to Judea for a census with her child born in Bethlehem manger is known to all of us, but mostly doubted by scholars interested in the historical Jesus. This skeptical position is usually considered because Mark has no such story, and it seems to be basically contrived just to get Jesus into Bethlehem, born in Bethlehem, because he kinda had to claim messianic authority. I'm sympathetic to this skeptical position, to be honest, but I can also think of a perfectly good reason why Mary would have come south to Judea after all. Recall that she's illicitly pregnant in a small village, and childbirth and nursing a newborn baby was a village-wide affair. If she were a village pariah soon to give birth, a distinct and sad prospect, then her traveling to be around more supportive family, perhaps during one of the several 3 pilgrimage festivals to Jerusalem that she would have made every year, this makes some degree of sense. And it just so happens that she did in fact have such family, seemingly an aunt or a cousin, living just over 6 kilometers to the west of Jerusalem. Further, her relative Elizabeth was married to a priest named Zachariah, and thus the family would have had at least some degree of an air of respectability, something the illicitly pregnant Mary would have desperately needed. Elizabeth herself was already 6 months pregnant with a child that she would go on to name Yochanan. That child would become John the Baptizer. Perhaps here in Judea, Mary would give birth to her child, a boy that she named Yahushua, the English name for Joshua, but in Aramaic probably Yeshu or Yeshua, in Latin via Greek as, of course, Jesus. And the two, Jesus and John, would have known each other growing up, Jesus visiting the pilgrimage festivals at least 3 times a year. They were kin, perhaps cousins. But the truth of the matter is that we know basically nothing about the early life of Jesus. The Gospels are more or less only concerned with his preaching, his miracles, and his final days. Indeed, the bulk of the Gospels primarily deal with just his last hours. But of course, Jesus lived his life as a religious Jew in the Galilee. His family was, unsurprisingly, poor. When they came for the redemption of the firstborn, or Pidyon Ben, they couldn't even afford the standard sheep sacrifice required, giving the substitute sacrifice of a pair of doves or 2 pigeons. He seems to have taken up the family trade of being a tekton. Traditionally, this is translated as a carpenter, but I suspect, along with other scholars, it's probably something like a stonemason or a similar craftsperson working on the various construction projects of Herod Antipas, such as the rebuilding of Sepphoris in his teens or so, or Tiberius in his 20s. That man, Herod Antipas, would eventually murder John and be an accessory to the murder of his kinsman, Jesus. He was working for the person who would ultimately play a role in killing him. Indeed, his parables and teachings are filled with the images of the working poor like him and his family. He spoke Aramaic and the Galilean dialect that was often mocked by the elite Southerners as oafish, and probably had some Greek, and I'm sure knew what it was like to be talked down to in Latin. Jesus, like many great religious leaders, ironically wrote nothing down so far as we can tell. He had some religious education. He could read the Torah in Hebrew and debate matters of Jewish law, or halakha. Those debates would have largely been framed at that time by the 2 great legal houses of Hillel and Shammai, both of those people passing away during the lifetime of Jesus and themselves being buried in the Galilee. I wouldn't be surprised if Jesus himself didn't attend one of those funerals. Many of Jesus' religious teachings make it pretty clear that his positions were closely aligned with those of the house of Hillel. At times he even directly echoes Hillel himself. And like all Jews, he was strict on some matters of the law and lenient on others. His teaching on Sabbath observance was scandalously lax, but his teaching on divorce was scandalously strict. But the truth of the matter is that Jesus lived in a world of Judaism.
That's an observation that might be rooted to his childhood of an illegitimate birth.
Was primarily ran by the wealthy traditionalist party known as the Sadducees. They represented the old money Israelite religion. They rejected the afterlife and angels and demons, and much beyond the Torah as simply paganism. In many ways, they represent the religion of the Hebrew Bible more than any of their contemporaries. They were also closely aligned with the Romans, making them all the more unpopular with the population, even being seen as compromising the sanctity of the temple itself. The Pharisees, on the other hand, were largely the rabbinical faction, whose primary interest was in day-to-day Jewish life. Thus, living a life of justice and holiness according to the Torah and traditions was simply paramount for them. And while Jesus is often seen sparring intellectually with the Pharisees plotting to do him some harm, what's often forgotten or just ignored is that Jesus himself was a kind of Pharisee, a rabbinical teacher fundamentally interested in ethical life and observing the commandments revealed to Moses by God. I suspect this is often missed by Christians primarily because they've just never read any of the literature actually composed by the Pharisees themselves, texts like Pirkei Avot, much of which unsurprisingly aligns with the moral outlook of very early Christianity that grew out of that very rabbinical context. But following the destruction of the Solomonic Temple in 586, the subsequent Babylonian exile and period of the Second Temple period, another form of Judaism also emerged, what scholars now call the apocalyptic. This mode of Judaism was marked by interest in cosmogony, events in the primordial past, what is called ex eventu prophecy, couched in very symbolic language. Ex eventu prophecy is prophecy that speaks critically about the present as if it's happening in the future. There's also anxiety in this religious mode about oppression and tribulation. There's talk of eschatological upheavals, especially the judgment and the eventual fate of the righteous and the wicked are profoundly highlighted in this form of Judaism. There's otherworldly journeys or vast journeys through the earth, a sense of good versus evil dualism, the intervention into history by messianic savior figures and anti-messianic characters. And the literature is interested in the structure of the heavens and hells, the hidden role of angels and demons in worldly affairs, and there's generally a kind of divinely deterministic attitude. That is to say, God is in control of everything and everything is going according to God's plan. Much of the literature is pseudo-anonymous and allegedly ancient authorship of these texts. And of course, what gives its name to this entire genre, the revealing or apocalypsis, from the Greek meaning to unveil or to uncover, all of this often to a human agent through an angelic emissary. This apocalyptic mode of Judaism was clearly popular. Dozens of such texts were composed in the centuries proximate to the life of Jesus, and is perhaps best witnessed by the documents that we now know of as the Dead Sea Scrolls. These documents, likely composed by the Essene faction, display a deeply apocalyptic ideology whereby their messianic leader, the teacher of righteousness, was expelled, or otherwise left his role as a
for providing national intelligence to the president, correct?
Yes.
And to the heads of executive branch departments and agencies, yes?
Yes.
And to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs and senior military commanders?
Across the IC, yes.
And to the Senate and the House and relevant committees, correct?
Yes.
And the law states that the national intelligence you provide to Congress, quote, should be timely, objective, and independent of political considerations, correct?
Yes.
And you noted in your opening statement you're here fulfilling a statutory responsibility and that your testimony, quote, represents the IC's assessment of threats, correct? And that opening statement, as submitted to the committee in advance of this hearing, stated that as a result of last summer's airstrikes, quote, Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated, end quote, correct?
That's right.
And is that in fact the assessment of the intelligence community?
Yes.
So the assessment of the intelligence community is that Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated by last summer's airstrikes.
Yes.
In the opening statement you submitted to the committee last night also stated, quote, there has been no effort since then to try to rebuild their enrichment capability, end quote, correct?
That's right.
And that's the assessment of the intelligence community.
Yes.
The White House stated on March 1st of this year that this war was launched and was, quote, a military campaign to eliminate the imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime, end quote. That's a statement from the White House. Quote, the imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime. Was it the assessment of the intelligence community that there was a...
She knows that, right?
She must. I would assume everybody in Trump's like high-level positions check his fucking Truth Social every day.
I wonder if how much she's throwing the White House under the bus here, but okay, go ahead.
An imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime.
The intelligence community assessed that Iran maintained the intention to rebuild and to continue to grow their nuclear enrichment capability.
Was it the assessment of the intelligence community that there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime, yes or no?
Senator, the only person who can determine what is and is not an imminent threat is the president.
False. This is the worldwide threats hearing where you present to Congress national intelligence, timely, objective, and independent of political considerations. You've stated today that the intelligence community's assessment is that Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated and that, quote, there had been no efforts since then to try to rebuild their enrichment capability. Was it the intelligence community's assessment that nevertheless, despite this obliteration, there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime? Yes or no?
It is not the intelligence community's responsibility to determine what is and is not an imminent threat.
Okay.
That is up to the president based on a volume of information
it is precisely
that he receives.
It is precisely your responsibility to determine what constitutes a threat to the United States. This is the worldwide threats hearing where, as you noted in your opening testimony, quote, you represent the IC's assessment of threats. You are here to represent the IC's assessment of threats. That's a quote from your own opening statement. And so my question is, as you're here to present the IC's assessment of threats, was it the assessment of the intelligence community?
People are... don't ever make me defend this fucking witch. But her answer here, in my opinion, is a very important and a very good answer, because what she's telling you is the intelligence community did not make the assessment that Iran needed to be attacked. This came from the White House, period. That's what she's saying. It's up to the president. It's not. They're the ones that should assess like how urgent it is to attack. But she's saying that that's up to the president to figure out. What she's saying there is that shit was not our call. That was Trump's call, 100%. That's what she's saying. But yeah,
like we provide the guidance, they make the decisions. I wonder how much like they're preparing for midterms. Like, you know, there's going to be inquisitions and shit, so I need to start playing it safe.
Who the fuck knows?
Yeah, I mean, she kind of throws the White House fully under the bus here of like, hey, the intelligence community's opinion is that, yeah, Iran's nuclear capabilities were fully destroyed.
Yep. Yeah, she does.
She says it at the beginning.
Because she could have equivocated on that hard.
No.
Like, well, we assessed that we did temporary damage, but you never know. They could be building other stuff, or we always kept the option. But she didn't say that. Her opening statements were clear and unambiguous that Ossoff is quoting from.
Yep.
And then she's clearly and unambiguously stating here that the White House is the one that made the decision to attack.
Yeah, the president makes the determination. Yeah.
That, as the White House claimed on March 1st, there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime. Yes or no?
Once again, Senator, the intelligence community has provided the inputs that make up this annual threat assessment.
You won't answer the question.
It is the nature of the imminent threat that the president has to make that determination based on a collection and volume
You're here
of
to be
information
timely.
and intelligence that he is provided with.
You're here to be timely, objective, and independent of political considerations.
Exactly what I'm doing.
No, you're evading a question because to provide a candid response to the committee would contradict a statement from the White House.
Interesting. I mean, I feel like she does try to play it a little bit both sides and evade at the end, but I think at the beginning...
I totally disagree. That is a clear and unambiguous, I wouldn't say condemnation, but the responsibility on this one is 100%.
Yeah, I think at the beginning she definitely plays that. I think she tries to play coy around where she talks about like, hey, we'd have to go back to the middle.
Threat is the president. The intelligence community assessed that Iran maintained the intention to rebuild and to continue to grow their nuclear enrichment.
Like that
Was it
statement?
Yeah.
That's not a threat, right?
No.
Well,
they want to make
intention-
nukes eventually.
Yeah. So all we did was we determined that Iran wants to keep building nukes. They have the intention to continue building. Like, yeah, we know that much.
Yeah.
Now, was there an imminent threat? Well, that's up for the president to determine. And that's the motherfucker that pulled the trigger or watched Israel pull the trigger on Iran over and over again.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll watch all of Tulsi's hearing or whatever, but from what I was hearing from Tulsi Gabbard's stuff, if I'm not misunderstanding, it really, really, really sounds like Tulsi Gabbard is throwing the White House under the bus significantly. That's what I heard. When somebody asks you, like, did you guys assess that Iran was an imminent threat to the United States? And she says, the intelligence community is responsible for putting together all sorts of stuff. We don't assess whether or not something is immediately a threat or whatever. That's up to the president. When she was saying that over and over and over again, what's being communicated in my mind is this was a decision that was solely made by the White House. It did not come from the intelligence community, which is a pretty big... Can we watch Desai's video on it? Does he point this out?
Like for you, first of all, to be back in Washington.
Oh man, this.
Did Josiah get a tan?
Yesterday you said that only the president, the only person who can determine what is an imminent threat is the president of the United States.
The only thing that makes me second guess my interpretation is it seems like the people questioning her weren't picking up on this. But so maybe I could be wrong. And I feel like they would know, but I don't know.
Yesterday you said that only the president, the only person who can determine what is an imminent threat is the president of the United States.
Where does this motherfucker come
Do you
from?
stand by that statement?
Yes, I do.
Director Ratcliffe, do you agree with that assessment that the president is the only person that can determine if something is an imminent threat or not?
To me, it sounds like she's just really afraid to say outright, we did not tell the president the threat was imminent, which does what you said, but also dissolves any trust in her position. I disagree. Taking her at her word and then reading between the lines. I don't have to say reading between the lines. It sounds like what she's saying is that the intelligence community. I need to find the exact line of questioning. I listened to it with Mooten. I don't think it was on stream, but somebody was asking like it was a clear line of questioning. Did you blow up all of Iran's nuclear reactors? Yes. Did you really obliterate their facilities? Yes. And do you think there was an imminent threat? President decides that. That sounds to me like you're saying, we said shit was fucked. We were fine on it. Everything was good. Iran was nowhere near anything. President's the one who decides whether... That's what I heard when she was speaking. But I don't remember I don't know which part of it we were listening to, or if Mooten had the link to that. I think it was just watching their stream when he was watching it. Oh, it might have been when Ossoff was questioning her, actually.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for being here. And before I
We'll
ask
just listen to his whole line of questioning, I guess.
a few questions, I want to call everyone's attention again to this fundraising email signed by the president that Senator Kelly mentioned earlier.
These are crazy, bro.
In which the President of the United States invites his campaign donors to, quote, claim your spot, join now to receive private national security briefings to his political donors, featuring a photo of the President at a dignified transfer ceremony with a flag-draped coffin of an American service member killed in action returning to their family. And the American people need to know that the President of the United States is fundraising for his political campaign and his...
Tulsi Gabbard just doesn't know how to spin this. I disagree. I hate her, but I think if she needed to spin this, I think she could. Oh, and the reason I'm bringing this up now is because I feel like my analysis was bolstered by, if it's even true, but if it's not true, then forget everything I'm about to say. Laura Loomer today was tweeting out that Gabbard is on her way out, but maybe Loomer's just trying to create pressure, or maybe, I don't know if she just tweets random shit or whatever. Dude, people that use Twitter this much, this is not healthy. What do these people do all day? I get paid to do this shit and I don't tweet this much. What the fuck? Scoop. You know it's true because she put scoop. Tulsi Gabbard's political staff expect that she is about to resign following the resignation of her colleague, Joe Kent, 16 Jan 19. But I don't know. I would wait for other people to report on that for it to see if any of this is true or not, I guess.
PAC using images of American service members killed in action, and it's a disgrace. Now, Director Gabbard, I'd like to reground this in your core responsibilities. Under the law, you are responsible for providing national intelligence to the President, correct?
Yes.
And to the heads of executive branch departments and agencies, yes?
Yes.
And to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs and senior military commanders?
Do they need to spend anything at this point? Yes, because I think the writing is on the wall that this is not a popular war. I can't tell you. I can't give you a state of mind or predict. I really don't know. I don't know.
Across the IC, yes.
And to the Senate and the House and relevant committees, correct?
Yes.
And the law states that the national intelligence you provide to Congress, quote, should be timely, objective, and independent of political considerations, correct?
Yes.
And you noted in your opening statement you're here fulfilling a statutory responsibility and that your testimony, quote, represents the IC's assessment of threats, correct? That opening statement, as submitted to the committee in advance of this hearing, stated that as a result of last summer's airstrikes, quote, Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated, end quote, correct?
That's right.
Now, don't always think about what they say. Think about what they're not saying, right? Now, again, these people aren't stupid. So she knows where this line of questioning is going. Now, if this was like a Christy Nome or Pam Bondi or whatever other bullshit, one of these other fucking stooges who's up here, right? If they were said, you guys said correct that you obliterated Iran's nuclear capability, correct? Instead of just saying correct, they would say yes, but they could still be working on something. We obliterated what was there at the time, right? They could say a whole much more, but she doesn't. She gives a crystal clear yes, it was destroyed. Yes.
Quote, Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated.
Obliterated. The nuclear enrichment program, not just their warheads, not just the bomb, but their enrichment program was obliterated.
End quote, correct?
That's right.
And is that in fact the assessment of the intelligence community?
Yes.
Yes. That's it. Yes. Nothing else. Yes. Just yes. That's it.
So the assessment of the intelligence community is that Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated by last summer's airstrikes.
Yes.
That's it. Yes.
And the opening statement you submitted to the committee last night also stated, quote, there has been no effort since then to try to rebuild their enrichment capability, end quote, correct?
That's right.
And
that's it. No effort to rebuild.
The assessment of the intelligence community.
Yes.
Yes.
The White House stated on March 1st of this year that this war was launched and was, quote, a military campaign to eliminate the imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime, end quote. That's a statement from the White House. Quote, the imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime. Was it the assessment of the intelligence community that there was an imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime?
There are a million ways that she could answer this question. She could just meander to other facts. Well, Iran has been hostile in the past. They could, try to get weapons again. We know they were trying to reacquire them, or they were rebuilding, or we don't know where all the nuclear material. There's a million ways that she could answer that question if she was trying to provide any cover whatsoever for Washington, right? There's a million ways she could answer this question.
Was it the assessment of the intelligence community that there was an imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime?
The intelligence community assessed that Iran maintained the intention to rebuild and to continue to grow their nuclear enrichment capability.
Was it
the intention to
assessment of the intelligence community that there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime, yes or no?
Senator, the only person who can determine what is and is not an imminent threat is the president.
False.
The only person who can make that call about imminent threat is Trump. That is a total shuffle of responsibility to that decision. All of that is on Trump. In my opinion, especially given how much every cabinet level fucking loser has carried water for Trump, that is a crazy fuck you to the White House to just totally, because it doesn't sound to me, now maybe in other parts of this hearing, maybe I changed my mind, I've listened to the whole thing. Maybe in other parts here, she's more supportive of Trump, but this sounds to me like a complete and total, we gave him the intel, I said what the fuck I said, whether or not he thinks we're gonna get blown up, that's on him to figure out. We didn't say shit about that.
This is the worldwide threat.
This is exactly what Trump wants. He has the power to decide is how he sees it. I disagree. I think it's what Trump wants in reality, but in presence to the media, I think Trump wants other people to kind of like take some bullets for him or to shuffle the responsibility around, especially with this war being so fucking unpopular, right?
Threats hearing where you present to Congress national intelligence, timely, objective, and independent of political considerations. You've stated today that the intelligence community's assessment is that Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated and that, quote, there had been no efforts since then to try to rebuild their enrichment capability. Was it the intelligence community's assessment that nevertheless, despite this obliteration, there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat?
It's not unpopular for the people that vote Republican. I think that overall with the American people, it's very unpopular. I think Republicans have kind of sort of supported it, but less than they have other things in the past. Give me polling data for Republicans right now and how they feel about it. Also, it won't survive the gas price hikes. It won't. The opinion will not survive that.
Threat posed by the Iranian regime. Yes or no?
It is not the intelligence community's responsibility to determine what is and is not an imminent threat.
Okay.
That is up to the president
here's the problem.
based on a volume
no,
of
it is
information
precisely
that he receives.
it is precisely your responsibility to determine what constitutes a threat to the United States.
It absolutely is the responsibility of the intelligence community. It absolutely is. Like, obviously, this is part of your this is part of your threat assessments, right? For presidential briefings and everything else. Of course it is. You would never leave this up to just the president. Now, it might be the president's final call to act, but
this is the worldwide threats hearing where, as you noted in your opening testimony,
Tulsi is just saying it in a way that will make Trump happy because he hears that he's the boss on I disagree. I totally disagree. But who knows? I could be wrong. Maybe I'm looking at this completely differently. I feel like this is throwing him under the bus completely on this.
Quote, you represent the IC's assessment of threats. You are here to represent the IC's assessment of threats. That's a quote from your own opening statement. And so my question is, as you're here to present the IC's assessment of threats, was it the assessment of the intelligence community that, as the White House claimed on March 1st, there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime? Yes or no?
Once again,
Well, look who it is.
Stream.
and Senator, the intelligence community has
What'd I miss?
provided the
I'm just rewatching this Tulsi Gabbard thing.
inputs that make up this
It's a
annual
fucking
threat
cinema,
assessment.
isn't
Do you want to answer the
And
question?
she is throwing
nature
her under the
of
bus.
the-
You were correct.
Wait, why are you saying I was correct? Did something come out to prove my point?
That kinda, but I sent you 2 other links of this hearing, and she kinda did another
Boy, you know what I
Donald
should've
Trump
done?
bad-esque move.
Shit. Okay, I'll check. Hold on.
imminent
This isn't
threat that the
fucking-
president has to
this
make
isn't
that
the Shogun where you get
determination
the
based on a
do-over
collection
button.
volume
Fuck.
You're here
of
to be
information and
timely.
intelligence that he is provided with.
You're here to be timely, objective, and independent of political considerations.
I don't think he's ashamed of being responsible for this war, considering he uses literally every opportunity in front of a camera talking about the war. Yeah, but you don't want the impression that like your top cabinet people are not supporting you on it, and this is not a supportive decision, or she's not giving supportive statements.
Exactly what I'm doing.
No, you're evading a question because to provide a candid response to the committee would contradict a statement from the White House. Let me ask you about your presence in Fulton County on January 28th of this year.
Now that was weird.
You were present at the FBI's raid on the Fulton County Elections Office on January 28th, correct?
I was present for part of the FBI exercising a warrant approved by a municipal judge.
Yes,
to
and the
obtain
FBI was there executing that warrant to seize ballots and materials associated with the 2020 election, correct?
Yes.
And are you aware that members of this committee have already opened inquiries into your election-related activities?
Yes.
And are you aware that your general counsel and deputy general counsel have already provided testimony to this committee regarding those activities?
Yes.
On February 2nd, you sent a letter to Senator Warner regarding your...
If she is throwing Trump under the bus, why isn't Ossoff playing along? Genuine question. I actually don't know. That's the only thing that makes me second guess.
I don't think it's super obvious, and I think he's just going down his line of questioning.
Yeah,
in my
usually
opinion.
these guys have their line of questioning written down prior to coming into here. Like they're reading off papers and everything, yeah.
But also, he probably
presence at
wants
the-
a harder response, right? But she can't. I mean, you can't really do that. She's doing it enough. I agree.
Well, technically, if she wasn't a Republican fucking sellout piece of shit, you would hope that this person would be publicly stating, we had no reason to believe it was an imminent threat.
This
But then, of
place
course,
is
she'd be immediately
shameful.
removed from the cabinet, I guess. But, yeah.
Yeah, she'd be
raid was
removed
that-
from the cabinet. But who else has like done this besides, I guess maybe like
Well-
what's his name, Tillis or whatever, who's not running for re-election?
You know what
Even
was
the people
dumb
who
of
aren't
me?
running for re-election haven't really
Growing.
gone full out like Marjorie Taylor Greene, I guess.
Sure.
Letter accurate?
I don't recall the exact date, but if I sent a letter that had my signature, it was accurate.
You stated in the letter that your presence at the raid was, quote, requested by the president, correct?
Yes.
When did the president request your presence at the raid?
The day of the raid, the warrant execution commencing.
The day of the raid?
Yes.
He called you on the phone?
I'm not going to disclose how the message was delivered, but it was a request from the president's administration to go and help oversee this warrant being executed, along with the deputy director of the FBI.
Is it your...
Oh, well, fuck. I feel like I actually should watch this now. Because
You should.
I might just be autistic, or I might have totally different interpretation from everybody. This is also, I don't know if she has to say anything about what comes from the president, because there's this really broad thing that I don't understand called executive privilege. And I think it's like the Fifth Amendment, like times 20 billion. Basically anything related to the president, you can just like, executive privilege. I don't have to talk about this. I don't know if she actually has to say anything about communication between her and the president. But she's literally saying
it's an order from the president is crazy.
Yes. She's literally saying the president of the United States is the one who ordered me to go to Fulton County to be there. Like, that's a pretty crazy statement.
The letter that
Warner, regarding your presence at the raid, was that letter accurate?
I don't recall the exact date, but if I sent a letter that had my signature, it was accurate.
You stated in the letter that your presence at the raid was, quote, requested by the president, correct?
Yes.
When did the president request your presence at the raid?
The day of the raid, the warrant
And the day of the raid, Jesus.
That's a crazy one too.
and execution.
But I
commencing.
mean, was she even in the fucking area?
I mean, she's a DNI. She could just take I'm sure they got like a CIA Black Ops jet or something, right? They can invoke that in court, but Congress has the power of oversight. No, the executive branch can't conceal things from the legislative branch. No, I'm pretty sure they can, right? Because I think on the J6 Select Committee stuff, a whole bunch of that, people were claiming executive privilege and stuff, right? Like Mark Meadows never had to testify or anything. What?
Kafka typed too.
Executive privilege isn't that strong. They can overcome it with a sufficient showing of the need for evidence. Yeah, I guess I don't know what that sufficient showing means or how often executive privilege is overcome or...
That's probably not a hearing though. That's probably like
it wouldn't be here. It'd be another
thing.
Yeah.
So she could just claim executive privilege here and then make him like actually do that later would be my guess.
Maybe. Yeah.
Request your presence at the raid.
The day of the raid, the warrant execution commencing.
The day of the raid?
Yes.
He called you on the phone?
I'm not going to disclose how the message was delivered, but it was a request from the president's administration to go and help oversee this warrant being executed along with the deputy director of the FBI.
Is it your
and
role to
thank
oversee?
the FBI agents who were conducting
Is it
this
your role
warrant.
to oversee the execution of criminal warrants?
It is my role, based on statute that Congress has passed, to have oversight over election security, to include counterintelligence.
But you said you oversaw the raid, correct? You just testified you oversaw the raid?
Portions of it.
Okay. Did you handle any ballots or election-related materials?
No.
You were inside an FBI evidence truck, correct? You were photographed inside an FBI evidence
It was an
truck.
empty truck, yes.
The president stated, quote, you looked at votes that wanted to be checked out.
The
Is that
senator's
accurate?
time is expired.
Did you look at votes as the president
Senator
stated?
Ossoff, your time is expired.
You respond
can
for the
have her.
record?
No, she cannot respond because...
No, for the record. Will the director please respond for the record to that question is my
I'm happy
question.
to respond to questions for the record.
Support journalism you trust. Support PBS News. Donate.
Wait, she said she was happy to respond to questions.
Well, that's where the Twitter clip ends. That guy got out of committee, Mullen, 6-5, I think, right? By one vote? By fucking
John Fetterman. By fucking Fetterman.
Oh no, 8-7, not 6-5.
Hate
sorry.
John
8-7.
Fetterman.
Fuck,
Jesus.
I hate that guy.
Yeah, me
I
too.
hate Fetterman. Wait, can we please step back for a second and just level? We all agree we prefer Fetterman to fucking Dr. Oz, right? Yeah. But this is my issue with Fetterman, okay? Fetterman seems like he fucks with Democrats for the love of the game, okay? Like,
I mean, what's the
Cinema
difference at
and
this
Mansion,
point?
where our crazy pivot swing votes.
All right, cool. Far left activist stays in 5-star Cuban hotel.
In Iran tonight, several new developments here. President Trump says talks with Iran have started, but it comes as the Pentagon now orders up 1,500 soldiers from the 82nd Airborne to the Middle East. And late today, the president at the White House now saying Iran sent a present. Rachel Scott at the White House tonight.
Even as President Trump claims peace talks are underway, tonight the Army is preparing to deploy up to 1,500 troops from the elite 82nd Airborne Division to the Middle East to support the war. The president has said he does not plan to put boots on the ground, but the soldiers of the 82nd are trained to parachute behind enemy lines. Their deployment on top of the 4,500 Marines and sailors expected to arrive in the region this week. It comes as President Trump and Iran send clashing messages about whether they're negotiating. Trump insists they are.
The leaders are all gone. Nobody knows who to talk to. But we're actually talking to the right people, and they want to make a deal so badly.
Iran says that is simply not true, that there are no talks, and that Trump's statements are part of efforts to reduce energy prices and buy time for the implementation of his military plans. The president will not say which Iranian leaders the U.S. is talking to.
We have really regime change. You know, this is a change in the regime because the leaders are all very different than the ones that we started off with that created all those problems.
Today, he cryptically noted that he knows Iran is going to make a deal because they just gave the U.S. what he called a very big present.
They did something yesterday that was amazing, actually. They gave us a present, and the present arrived today. And it was a very big present worth a tremendous amount of money.
What the fuck is he talking
what
about?
that present is, but it was a very significant.
He sounds like Michael Scott.
Prize. And they gave it to us, and they said they were going to give it, so that meant one thing to me: we're dealing with the right people.
The White House would not say what exactly that gift is. The president would only say it's related to oil and gas passing through the Strait of Hormuz. Iranian officials still insist there are no negotiations underway with the United States. But tonight, sources tell me the Trump administration has sent over a 15-point peace plan to Iran by way of Pakistan with hopes of ending this war, David.
You'll continue to follow this for us, Rachel. Thank you.
Didn't see. Just revival. I am indeed having fun. What's up, Jacob? I love. I'm streaming. So don't say the N-word like I know you like to do. It's just allergies. I hope. Up to that guy. Dude, why is everything so expensive now? Nani? Yeah, let's send the 14-year-old in the war. Fuck yeah. Fuck this 14-year-old.
That's okay.
Why the hell not? Nani? Okay, I learned my lesson last time I got my dumbass killed. I'm doing what you do, but for religion. I'm doing this religious deep dive down into the origins of Yahwism. I think you'd be proud of me. I'm looking at sources and shit. It's crazy. Who knew I had it in me? I like just mass spamming arrow units, I suppose. Just playing on a non-autopilot setting. Five you bastards.
Our men are running from the battlefield.
Shame for this prey. And the 14-year-old's getting shot at. Fucking hilarious. Are you guys firing? Okay. Firing at will, firing at will. I need to get Paul the Samurai. Yeah, probably, I guess. I don't know why. When I play it, I just like the base game more. It feels better to play the base game. But maybe I'm just like, oh, lazy to change. Like I tried it once, didn't like it, and gave up like a little bitch. Alright, we can just fast forward this, and you can just pelt their asses with 1.5 million arrows. Because there ain't no way they're gonna be surviving much longer.
One of our units has used all its ammunition, my lord.
Might didn't consider that. What if these guys run out of ammo?
One of our units has used all its ammunition, my lord. One of our units has used all its
And
ammunition.
who's got any ammunition left? We'll wait till they're all.
My lord, their general has fallen. A cutting blow!
Anybody have ammunition left? Doesn't look like it. All right, the 14-year-old has to go in now. Kill the 14-year-old.
Our general is in grave danger, my lord!
Costly. Yeah, for them. Yeah, fuck this guy too. Damn, come all the way back. Bitch, shut the fuck up. Mounting unrest in EO. I don't care. This is just a let's fuck with everybody and do absolutely nothing on a productive campaign. You heard the man. Yeah, we're just gonna farm this fool. What are you doing? Reminds me of that video where you, it's like all those Japanese e-streamers with the anime avatars playing GTA 5 and Lamar goes, Niga, and they all like, they don't get it, so they just repeat it because they think it's a funny sound. Classic. I should say it on stream, but I don't give a fuck. Well, I sure have a lot of generals. Do I need this many generals? With my low taxes. Can't wait till the next season of Shogun comes out. My general strategy is to be a dick and just like raise cities over and over and over again until everybody's pissed off at me and comes after me, and I just want to like rain down arrows on them and see how that goes. I'm playing like a fantasy game in my head where I'm just like a dick to everybody. Like I'm like Trump in Japan. Many people saying that was racist. Tosa. Hell yeah. Kill the Christians. Yeah, give a 16-year-old the army. Be just like that movie Shogun. About a shogun. Give him all the Yari Ashigaru the army. Shit! Yeah, fuck it. Alright, see you, buddy. I'm probably gonna get off soon anyway. Pieces in there. Yeah, probably ain't worth. Maybe get off anyway. I need to go eat some food. Lord Jackass. Bam. Good night.